everybody, here is Desiree and Olga from SmartPurse, and welcome to our webinar about what to do with your money. Desiree, do you want to say a couple of words about yourself, or you're going to start the presentation first?
So hi, welcome also from my side. Great to have you. My name is Desiree, and I'm a financial service expert and an expert in marketing and growth strategies. And I'm since a couple of weeks also an entrepreneur, so it's great to have you here for our webinar about should I do with my money.
Yeah, and I'm Olga. I'm one of the two co-founders of SmartPurse. SmartPurse is a financial education toolkit helping people to be better with money, in particular women. And I come from the financial services industry, specialized in gender smart investing and sustainable investing. Okay, and this would be us that you see on the chart, and most likely now you see us kind of in a little window down there. That's great.
And because we know that for all of you, or for many of you, the topic investing is not probably the most exciting and interesting topic, we try to make it as much fun as possible. So please stay with us. And for those who stay until the end of this webinar, we have a little benefit, and we will share with you our money essential checklist that will help you to get started with your investments and to kind of like sort your money plans for the future.
And that's for everybody who's going to last with us the full 14 minutes that we still have to go. Okay, let's get rolling. So this topic around money is, I think, something that is on top of everybody's mind. And the good news is it does vary a lot of people. That is probably not the good news, but the good news is you are not alone. Actually, research has shown that many people worry about money, in particular in their workplace. I read the statistics that people spend on average 13 hours every month worrying about money in the workplace. And if you can give me the next slide, maybe. In particular, 60% of adults worry about their financial situation. Now, women worry even more because they are negatively impacted. I mean, one of the shocking statistics was that, women will end up 5 times poorer at the age of retirement than men do. Well, that is a very dark picture to start a lunch break. I am fully aware, but I think the good news is, yes, you are not alone. And that is what we are here for, to actually explain a little bit that being good with money is no rocket science, and it is much easier than you think.
And it seems, according to our poll survey, that also our audience are not feeling that comfortable. So,
but at least they are doing something about it. So Congratulations to everybody who's already with us in this webinar.
Great.
Go on. Okay. So as we all know that being good with money is important, what are the things that are holding people back? Desiree, when did you start to manage your money?
I started managing my money probably like 4 or 5 years ago, actively, I would say. Before, I tried always to stay kind of like on budget, but since 4 or 5 years, I really also do investings, and I have a clear plan of what I want to do with my money and what I want to achieve with my money. But that started really like 4 or 5 years ago only.
And you are what, in your 30s now?
Yeah.
So I am 43 and worked in the financial services industry for 11 years, and I only started to actively manage my money 5 years ago. So imagine that, being 6 years in the industry, already working, I still had no clue on what to do. And so as we did all of the SmartPurse research, we asked many people, actually hundreds, even thousands of women, through events and polls, what is it that keeps holding you back? And we detected these 5, I would say, myths, so-called myths, perceptions that people have about investing, which we would love to share with you now.
And let me just start here as well, the next poll before I move on, just that we see what you have to say and what you share with us. So here are the 5 myths that we want to dispel today. So what we hear from many people is really that, and especially women, that they would love to start investing. And you just also said in the last poll that, yes, you would like to do something with your money, but still many of them have kind of like issues or worry to start, or they don't really know where to start. So we looked at some misconceptions about investing and put them to scrutiny. For example, one that we hear very, very often, and I also hear from friends of my age, is there is enough time. I still can do it later. Yes, of course, there probably might not be the perfect age to start. But what we really can tell you is the earlier you start, the better, because time is your friend and it helps you over time to grow your money. You can first of all start with a very small amount, but you benefit from the effect of compounding and reinvesting that helps you to grow your money for a long time period. So start early because it will be beneficial. You also can take a higher risk as you can spread it apart more years than if you do it short term. So that's one of the recommendations we have here to start.
But then if you are a person like me, only starting in your 40s, many people have asked me, so why do you even bother? Quite frankly, it is worth bothering to start investing regardless of what age, because with our longer life expectancy, you will need the money to last for longer. And when we did a number of research studies around, is it even worth it? And does your financial situation improve? Even if you start in your 40s, 50s, or even 60s, yes, it still does improve significantly because of the compounding effect.
Yeah. And you need to have it for a longer time period, especially women, because usually they live longer, they have a higher life expectancy than men, and they need to have the money available in their older age. And for that, investing definitely can help. Another one that we hear very often is that investing is very complicated, or that they kind of are afraid to make mistakes. So yes, it is probably not very complicated, but it is definitely a topic that you need to spend some time on, and you need to commit yourself on it if you want to make your money work. It's kind of like comparing it, going from a couch potato to a gym fitness person. You can't, if your plan is to do it every day now, it's very unrealistic that you will match your goals. So try to be realistic with your goals, set them up, do step by step, one after the other. Try to increase your know-how, because that will help you to gain confidence in the theme. It will help you to understand the jargons that are often used. You get comfortable in it, to talk about it, to read more about it. And you will see from time to time, it can make fun. And it's quite interesting to see what you learn. It's also kind of like learning another language, which can be very interesting. So take your time. Don't be threatened about something you don't know yet. Take it as a challenge and just start one step after the other.
Yeah, but then, it's also, if people think they are very busy, and many women are very busy. I'm a mom of 2 children and full-time working and an entrepreneur. So obviously I do not have time to manage my portfolio day in and day out. I think what Desiree was referring to is probably you need a little bit of time to set all of your investments up, whether it is that you are using a physical financial advisor, so you find a person that will do this for you, whether it is that you are using one of the robo-advisors, so kind of a machine to select the right products for you. The initial setup takes a little bit of time, and it also takes a little bit of soul searching, quite frankly, because you need to think about what are my goals, what do I want to achieve with the money. But once it is set up, it is not that you have to be at it and following the markets every day. No. Right? I think it's people in the financial services industry always think that this is the biggest and the coolest thing to do. Quite frankly, I find that many of us have a life, and we don't need to be sitting there with our computers day in and day out. I came across and exchanged with many women that actually had the feeling, well, I am so afraid of losing it.
Yeah.
Well, that is probably the biggest mistake of it all. Doing nothing out of the fear of losing it is one of the sure ways of actually losing part of your money because of inflation, because of fees you pay. So it slowly gets eaten away. And I have a wonderful example in my family where this is actually happening, which is my mom, who now at the age of 73 has asked me and said, Olga, this is not going to last for me until, I potentially might not be alive. I need to invest part of my money very aggressively now in order to get some returns out of it.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, so that said, it is a topic that is important to all of us. The earlier you start, the better it is. But even if you are 73, there still is something to gain.
Yep.
Cool.
This is maybe a very interesting quote. I mean, just give it a minute so you can read it before we move over to another topic, which is about money habits.
And I think my point with this quote was more that, it's not just about the sheer figures on the bank account. Being good with your money at the initial start will mean to think about what you want to do with it. What do you want from life? How long is it meant to last? What do you want to leave behind? Do you want to make a difference with your money, for instance? And so that is what I meant before, that it takes a little bit of soul searching. In the same way, like when you start a fitness plan, maybe there is a higher aim for all of that. Being slim and fit can be one thing, looking good can be another thing, but somehow there needs to be a purpose to it all. And with money, it is a similar thing.
Olga, you wrote an article about money habits just lately. Also, it was on LinkedIn published. So what was the feedback you got from the people posting and commenting on it, but also based on your research? What are simple money habits that everyone could start today?
Look, it links to this question that many people ask us, and that's why we also called this webinar this way, right? What should I do with my money and where do I start? And so I wrote this article really putting forward some very, very simple things for people to hang on to. And when this article was published on LinkedIn, it got something like 10,000 views, I believe, and a lot of comments. So here are the things that really have come from the community. So it's not us giving financial advice, but it's actually what people have told us they found very helpful. First and utmost, it's about having the discipline to actually get started, and then sticking to a plan. Secondly, there was this ground rule: try not to spend more than you earn per month. And that sounds like a very obvious thing, but it seems to be that it is a good reminder, because that will help you to stay positive. Thirdly, people had a lot of comments around using credit cards and credit card debts, and how much does it actually cost you when you use a credit card. I mean, in the UK, it's between 80 to 22% of interest that you pay. So it is a lot of money. So usually a good trick was to basically avoid credit card debt. And fourthly was to have a budget, try to stick to it, and the little residuum that remains was basically to invest it in whatever form and shape. You don't need to have a super sophisticated strategy to invest. It also can be enough to start with, for instance, a basic saving app, or I use Revolut. So in Revolut, I can set up a thing that basically rounds up my exchange. But when I pay something, it rounds it up. It really comes down to having the basic discipline to deal with the topic. That, I think, is what has come back from people most.
Okay. I think another one is also that I see very much is talking about it and getting advice or tips from friends and family to see how they do handle their money. I found that very interesting as well, because I think you can really have some role models in your family or in your friends who you feel that they probably do something right with their money, because they seem to have everything under control and a good life. So it very helps also to just talk about this topic with everyone.
But don't you find it very difficult? I find it very, very difficult. I mean, guys, we sit here in Switzerland, right? This is one of the key financial centers in the world. And I think it is the country where money never really gets discussed. How do you approach the conversation, Desiree? You would kind of go to me and say, oh, how much do you earn?
No, not really about how much do you earn, but just having discussions about, for example, if you have friends who plan to buy a house. I mean, this is, for example, sometimes a topic, real estate and how do you want to do it. So we discuss together what's the way, how would you do it, how do you calculate it, what kind of documentations or resources do you use to find out kind of like what amount of house you could afford to buy, or how do you invest and how do you do the mortgage thing. So kind of like these topics, they are being discussed, yes. So I think it depends, of course, with whom and what kind of money topic you discuss. But I also discuss a lot with my parents, for example, because I feel that they did a very good job. in getting ready for the age, and for the retirement. So I often also talk to them and say, okay, what should I do? What can I do more in order to have at some point kind of like a secure future?
It's very interesting. So I usually collect a lot of tips and insight, popping only one question at people saying, look, I'm thinking about doing something more with my money. What is it that you use? Which tool do you use, or how do you do it? And usually people first look at me and say, this Swiss lady is asking really sweet questions. But then I get a lot of helpful tips and tricks and advice. And because there is no rocket science, obviously, yes, all of us who might be wealthy enough to use a private bank will get the prime advice. But assuming that nobody on this webinar, including ourselves, is not a millionaire, you have to be ready to roll up your sleeves. And they are getting advice from other people how they do it is really a very good and reliable source as well.
Yeah. Great. So we slightly over time, but we hope you stay with us for a couple of more minutes. This is another great quote, I think, which is very inspiring. We just give it another minute.
Yeah, be good. I think we should just move on and look at this. Many people ask us and say, so what is it that constitutes a financially healthy person or financially confident person? And for that, we have developed a questionnaire, which you are more than welcome to use and test, which you can find on the SmartPurse website. So we just wanted to point out that this questionnaire exists. It is not a questionnaire that will ask you for figures. It will more test your mindset around how you approach the subject of money, how do you feel about it, and how confident you are with it.
And I think very important here is also this is not a test or a survey that contains calculations or figures. So it's really just finding out where you stand and what relationship you have.
Yeah.
So give it a go. It's on our website.
Yeah.
If you have some spare minutes after the webinar.
Yeah, and with that, I think we already come to the end of our session, and thanks so much for listening to us. I think the key takeaways for all of you are not alone if you don't know where to start. There are 5 or 6 very easy things to do: having a budget, starting to invest even a tiny amount so you make the experience and get more advice from others. And obviously, if you want to set up a full-fledged, let's say, money strategy, one of the next steps will be that you need to figure out where do you want to be in life and what you want this money to do for you. And for that, we have a couple of follow-on webinars, because otherwise we wouldn't be overrunning by 2 minutes, but probably by about an hour.
Yeah.
So you find them listed here, and we hope that you join us again.
Exactly. And if you find this useful and the webinar, thank you very much for the great comments that we received. Please feel free to share it with friends, invite friends for the next webinar, or register on our website for the money tip, which is coming out every other week, where you also see the events and webinars planned and coming up.
Because that's what we are here for. We want to inspire every woman to be great with her money, and to do that in an independent and easy way. And therefore, thanks so much for sharing 20 minutes of your lunch break with us. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.